This is Revival X with John Burton.
All right, here we go. I am John Burton, and this is the Revival X podcast, and we are going to dive into something today that I think maybe will be helpful for a lot of you, interesting for even more of you. I'm going to talk about my journey, our journey in church planting, and some lessons that we've learned and things that we experienced, and how we did it differently than most. And I'm not saying better, I'm saying different, and kind of what that looked like. There's a lot of people out there that, I think they just presume kind of leading a church is kind of paradise. I've met a lot of people like that, and they're crying out, oh, if I could only be in full-time ministry, and if I could just start my own church. And if you're called to do that, that's amazing. It's incredible. I'm having the time of my life. I love it. Absolutely love it. We're on our third plant here in Branson, Missouri with Revival X, but it is a bigger topic of discussion, I think, than a lot of people realize. So how did it all begin for us? Well, it's such a long story. And yeah, this is a long form podcast. And by the way, you can subscribe, go to revivalx.tv/podcast. Use your favorite podcast app. I'm going to try to do this several times a week. It's a big story, and we've got a little extra time today, but not forever. We were in San Diego, and I'm going to kind of reveal to you, how this church plant thing happened. We were youth pastors in San Diego, our first ministry position, and God started dealing with us in a very unique way. Now, most church plants are done very differently, and they are very much planned out, and sometimes a year or even longer, in advance. There's a launch team, there's financial backing. Sometimes a church is backing it. Sometimes there's fundraising. Sometimes it's a denomination or a church planting network that will do that. There's all sorts of training and, schooling and courses and different things like that the church planting team are taking together. And all of this, I am sure, is incredible. And they get to the point when it's getting close, and they are planning out all of the marketing, and they're having it all designed, and they're getting their banners printed up and all of their social media blitzes that are coming, and ads. And sometimes I don't know if they're doing this today. They used to, back in the day, they would plan door knocking, and they'd go to door in the community. They might be putting together some sort of a community outreach or an event that just lets people know that they're new in town, and then finally, after all sorts of process, they launch, and they'll launch with 50 or 100 or 150 people, or sometimes more, on opening day. And it's, they got their children's ministry going, and their youth ministry, and worship team is polished, and greeters are in position, and everybody's smiling. And it's, and it's all about welcoming this group of people, and we want you to join our family and all of that. And so that's really what most church planting looks like. And, it's similar in one way or another, similar to what I just described. And the end goal is to establish a church that's going to be there forever, and you're going to draw people in, and you're going to develop a church family, and you're all going to be together and grow together and worship together and have this nice little happy gathering. And that's a goal. And of course, most church planters, numerical growth is huge on their minds, and they want to grow in numbers. They have these goals, and they want to have so many, small groups by the end of the first year, and they are looking to have so many people coming on a Sunday, and they're, so many people stepping into leadership, and on and on and on and on and on. And so everything that I just described to you, we didn't do that in any of the church plans, and I would never want to do that. Even though I can look at that and I can see value in doing that, our vision is just wildly different. And And we're wired different, right? And so you've got to figure out if you're planting a church, how you're going to go about it. Well, okay, here we go. We were in San Diego, youth pastors there, and man, the people in San Diego, I've just got great memories of San Diego, and the people there are just incredible folks. And I just saw God just do amazing things, and I was having the time of my life. And, and man, right there in San Diego, come on, the beach and the weather, and just absolutely beautiful. We loved it. Well, there was a time when my pastor and I took a trip to a conference at New Life Church in Colorado Springs. And this was, when was this? This must have been in 97, I'm guessing, or maybe 98, right in there, and probably 98. And we were there, and I was staying at my in-laws, and something was going on. There was something stirring in me that was unexpected, that was pretty powerful. I found myself to be quite emotional, and decided to take a walk. It was late at night, and just started walking the neighborhood there in Colorado Springs. And I just started weeping. And now I was a young dude. The weeping thing wasn't normal for me, back then. And we, Ella had a daddy-daughter movie night and went to see The Forge. Oh, you've got to see that movie. And saw The Forge, and Ella, she's very deliberate in looking at me and putting her face right in my face when she thinks I'm crying. And so here I am, 55 years old, and the tears will flow sometimes. But this was back in the day. This is a long time ago. But I'm walking around Colorado Springs, and I'm overwhelmed. The Spirit of the Lord is swirling all around me. I'm crying. I'm experiencing God in a way that I never have had in my life. And I knew that something was going on. And I had a strong idea that we were supposed to be there in Colorado Springs. Well, it didn't make sense. I didn't know what that looked like. We stumbled upon a little town at the base of Pikes Peak right next door to Colorado Springs called Manitou Springs. And God started swirling again, and he starts speaking, and really crazy prophetic stuff's happening. And I'm like, what is going on? And I was convinced, at that point, that we were supposed to come and start a church, start a ministry, do something. We didn't know specifics, but something was going down in Funky Town, and we didn't know how to respond. But it was clear to me that my time in San Diego was not going to be long. And while I loved it, and I loved so much of it, there was parts of it that I just didn't feel connected. I just didn't feel settled, and God will do that. He'll unsettle you in one season and get you ready for the next. Well, a little time goes by, and I wasn't looking, but I was offered a position in a large church in Dallas, Texas. Well, I wrestled with that, and Amy and I did, and finally made the decision to leave San Diego and to join this large church, large youth ministry as a youth pastor in Dallas. And so God again started working miracles and making things happen, and got to Dallas. And while there was so much there that was really amazing, I never felt settled from day one. And I knew going in, I just knew, because by that time I had an idea that I would be starting a church in Manitou Springs. And I knew that I wasn't mostly there in Dallas for, to minister, to step into it and to build my ministry. I was there to learn. I was there to grow. And it was a very difficult 2 years. It was a 2-year season, very challenging. A lot of good things, a lot of amazing people, but very challenging. It was a culture that was different than I was used to, but even in that culture, I learned some things that I would need to learn. I would watch a senior pastor who was incredibly seasoned do things and function in a way that many times I just didn't get, and I didn't even, if it was me, I wouldn't do it that way. But I had to learn, and I had to grow. He made a decision about my own department that was very difficult for me, and he had made, a decision to allow me to have some input, and then I didn't get to have the input. And I had to die to self. And I'm like, I had a vision for this thing. I really wanted to move in a certain direction. And he kind of moved in another direction. Again, I was not only learning humility, not only learning, how to die to self, not only learning how to honor and respect, my authority, but what senior leadership looks like. And sometimes as a senior leader, the buck does stop with you. You are responsible for making the right decisions. And sometimes you're going to make those decisions and it's not going to jive with your staff. It's not going to be welcomed with open arms. And I watched him do that. There was a time there, and you watch God do things. God's getting me ready to plant my first church. And you watch God do things. There was a time when I had just a sudden, overwhelming vision. I'm a visionary and prophetic, and this church wasn't so much prophetic. That wasn't really the stream, and it was just a little different. Good church, but different. But here I am flowing in the prophetic, and I'm seeing things, and I had this vision for a youth center. There was a plot of land next to the church, and I cast this vision to the pastor, and I was excited about it. And man, this could be absolutely incredible here in North Dallas, Carrollton, Texas. And I shared it with him, and he said, well, why don't you go share this with one of our trustees, or a board member, someone in that role. And so I did. And I came out of it extremely frustrated and disillusioned and discouraged, because the trustee said, well, why don't you raise half and then we'll kick in the other half? And to me, it was a slap in the face, or it was a joke, or almost felt like I was being mocked, ridiculed. That's what it felt like. And again, I was learning lessons that things have to happen a certain way, especially in a large church where money is earmarked and budgeted and voted on and all this stuff going on. And so there's just not a magic pile of money that they can grab. And it was, I knew it would be millions of dollars. And for me to raise half of that was crazy. Well, so I was discouraged. Time goes by, and we ultimately came to the point where we were moving on, and we moved on from Dallas, and we moved to Colorado Springs. We didn't have a house. We didn't have a job. We didn't have anything. We did stay with our in-laws, and started the process there in Colorado Springs. Well, let me jump forward just a moment, because just so we kind of stay on track a little bit here. Time goes by in Colorado Springs, a lot of time. And then I heard that the church that I was at in Dallas, they had raised millions of dollars to expand their sanctuary. And it was all earmarked, and it was voted on, it was budgeted. Well, the pastor, again, this was not what you would call a prophetic church. The pastor, on the way to church, God spoke to him and said, you're not going to use that money to expand your sanctuary. You're going to use the money to build a youth center. He went and shared the vision, and everyone applauded. They ended up building at the time was the largest youth center in the nation. And I'll never forget, at one point, I ended up back in Dallas, and I got to see it with my own eyes. And I just can't explain to you how powerful that was in so many ways. And again, it was a lesson. It was like, sometimes the Lord will give you a vision, and it's not other people that are supposed to make it come to pass. Sometimes you're just planting the seed. Sometimes you've got to make it happen yourself. Maybe sometimes I would have to come up with the money. Maybe I would need to be the one to make it happen in response to what the Lord is calling me to do. In that season, in that time, the Lord's just saying, plant the seed. And I planted the seed, and, I'll admit, it was so satisfying. It was invigorating. It was exciting to see that vision that all I did was plant the seed. That's all I did. And there it was, exactly on the property where I had seen it. So again, lesson after lesson after lesson, life lessons, church lessons, humility lessons, leadership lessons, all this stuff was going on. Well, okay, here we are in Colorado Springs. And again, we're not doing any of this stuff, the way that most church planters would do it. We simply, we eventually got a townhouse of our own. We bought a townhouse, and, we were targeting Manitou Springs, and we gathered some people. And when I say some people, it was 2 people. We gathered another couple, and we would meet and we would pray, and I would teach a little bit, and that would be it. Well, then we got a 700 square foot little kind of really kind of an office, and people started showing up, and we grew in that place. And sometimes they wouldn't show up. I'll never forget. I'd sit outside on the curb, watching cars drive by, wondering if they're going to pull in. And sometimes that nobody would pull in the early days. And I'd just, it'd be 10:05, and I'd look at Amy. I'm like, "You want me to preach to you?" She's like, no, let's just go shopping. I'm like, all right. And so off we went. And those early days were marked by lots of prayer. Everything we do is prayer. You wonder how we started the church. Everything is prayer. Not just the foundation, but the walls, the interior decorating, everything is prayer, intercession. And so we would prayer walk. We would really go after it. And then sometimes people would show up, right? And we grew there, I don't know, very little, could hardly hold anybody, maybe 20 people. And then we got another spot, it was a little storefront, and we really grew. It went from 700 square feet to 1,500 square feet. And we went to 2 services there. And again, we're learning. I could talk to you for hours. So many of my books and teachings and different things that I talk about, individual stories, in this church planning process that are supernatural and mind-blowing. I just don't have time to do that right now. But we, so there we were in that 1,500 square foot storefront there in Manitou Springs. And understand Manitou Springs, the assignment there was very unique. It's very, very occultic, a city, a lot of witchcraft. Anton LaVey lived there. There's rumors that he wrote the Satanic Bible from there, at least part of it. And there's so much history, rumors of child sacrifice, all sorts of different things. And we had many, many supernatural warfare experiences that would just absolutely blow your mind. I'm not going to get to the stories right now, but that's the environment we were living in. Well, we, in every church since the 80s that had been started in Manitou Springs failed within their first 2 years. Every one. The pastor of the city there, and his picture was on the government, the city hall government website. He was a heretical pastor, part of a heretical denomination, and there was a little Baptist church, a little Catholic church, a little Episcopal church, and that was it. And so that was the environment that we were growing in. Well, we went to 2 services in that 1,500 square foot place. And by the way, only 700 square feet of it was a place to meet. The rest of it was in the back for children's ministry or whatever. And 2 services, we grew up to about 70 people in that place. God was working miracles. One particular Sunday morning, we had about 20 people in the first service and received an offering of $50,000. Next week, $25,000. So there's miracles happening. There's things happen, and the Lord made it possible for me to quit my job. I was working at the police department and then also at T-Mobile as a supervisor. Quit my job. And we were able to move into a 27,000 square foot property. And man, that was exciting. And it was a 100-year-old building. It was an old brothel. It was an old bowling alley. It was an old steakhouse, all sorts of things and all sorts of history. Got in there, had to do a lot of demon cleaning and lots of prayer. And it turned into a place where just God's glory was. It needed a lot of work, a lot of painting, all of that kind of stuff. And, if you're a church planter, you get to do all of that. A lot of trash being hauled out, old carpet being hauled out, carpet from the 1950s, it seemed, and just old nasty wallpaper, and just loads and loads and loads and loads of work. We needed, a stage to be built. And so we did that, and we grew. And again, prayer was just marked everything that we did, and the signs and the wonders and the miracles and the deliverance and the attacks of the enemy and witchcraft and witches showing up in the services, and all sorts of that kind of stuff is going on. Dramatic conversions, dramatic, just stories of people giving their lives to Jesus, and amazing, just amazing. And from there, different things were launched, and I was involved in a new prayer movement called Secret Prayer. We were in over 100 churches in Colorado Springs. Every Friday night from 10 to midnight, we would pray in tongues, pray on fire, 2 straight hours, and sometimes there'd be 25 people, sometimes there'd be 250 people, and some of these churches were so tiny that you could only fit 50 people in there, and the rest of them were walking around outside praying. It just phenomenal, incredible season of life. So we went through that, we were there many, many years, and God, I'm not going to get into the story, but God started challenging me about becoming even more driven by a strategy of intercession. And I went through this in a lot of prophetic, and the Lord spoke to me and he says, John, you're done. And I'm thinking, how can I be done? We're going after revival in Manitou. It's not done. He said, you're done. Over the next couple of weeks, we would travel around and we would pray, and we'd be with other people, different churches, different environments, and people that I don't know. Time after again, I think there was 9 or 10 different people looked at me and says, the Lord has a word for you, John. He says, you're done. And my folks that were traveling around with me, they started to just look at me. They're like, what is going on? This is crazy. Well, we made the shift, and it was very, very difficult. And we did lose a lot of people, and I knew we would. I told the Lord, I said, if we'd make this shift, we're going to lose people, we're going to lose money, we're going to lose it. And we did. We did. And moved into a smaller place and just started having very prayer-driven meetings and prayer walking. And we had whiteboards all over the walls, and mapping out what the Lord was revealing to us, and very, very different, very unique. And that's what we were going after. It was a very, very difficult season. It was good in so many ways. It was very difficult in so many ways. I don't want to dive into all that, but just, humans lead churches, and there was pain, and there was disappointment, and there was tears, and there was, there was worry, how are we going to survive? And there was all of this was just swirling and going on at the same time. Well, God had us in this new season. Well, we did. We settled into that. Lots of stories, incredible stories, miraculous stories. And there came a point where the Lord told me one night that it was time for us to move to Kansas City. And we've been visiting there and going to the International House of Prayer, and we felt at some point maybe we would end up there. And the Lord said, right in the middle of a service, I'm preaching. He said, John, this is the last time you're going to be preaching here at Revolution Church, is the name of our church. The last time you're going to be preaching here for a long time. And I shared it with the people that were there, and it was confirming, and they felt good about it. It was so strange. It was wild. It was God. It was prophetic. Amy comes up with 2 absolutely wild ideas. Both of them were God ideas. Both of them financially made it possible for us to make the move. One of the ideas was put an ad on Craigslist asking if anyone there would be willing to let us stay in their house for free. I'm thinking, that's a crazy idea. Well, we were contacted. A lady who has her house for sale, lives in Texas, wanted us to live in her house for free. And not only that, but she started supporting our ministry and sending us a monthly check. And so not only were we staying in her house for free, she was paying us to stay in her house for free. We started bringing in pretty good money by putting our house in Colorado Springs on the vacation rental market. And it was incredible. And so God's doing things. Prophetically, things are happening. I was offered a position at IHOP. I directed one of the 4 primary internships there. And, of course, IHOP has gone through struggles, very sad, very tragic. And I hate that. But back when we were there and our experience, it was, again, God was teaching us things. We were growing. It wasn't easy, but it was miraculous. And we were there a couple of years. And then God spoke to us about moving to Detroit. And again, all sorts of miracles, regarding that. This was when in 2008, when the finances were crashing, the economy was crashing. We owned a house there in Kansas City, and Amy puts out a fleece, said, God, if you want us to move to Detroit, I'm going to put the house on the market tomorrow. You got to sell it tomorrow for full price. Well, it happens. It absolutely happened. And I had been traveling to Detroit, and God was moving, and it was amazing. And I met incredible people there, and a house, a church leader, and different pastors of churches. And the prophetic was off the charts, and God was moving, and just huge, just church services, and people are getting rocked by God. And just several times I flew there to Detroit. Well, then it came time to move there. We moved there, and again, the Lord spoke to us about starting a church. And we started gathering people in our living room, and it was amazing. Went from there to we rented space at a Methodist church just on like a Saturday night. We could use the sanctuary, and big old sanctuary, and we'd have 25, 30 people there, and it looked real empty, but God was moving, and we were advancing. And went from there. And well, in the meantime, right there, God speaks to me very directly, says, you need to start a ministry school. I'm like, that's crazy. There's nobody that's going to come. We're too small. Well, we did it. And people from all over Detroit showed up, had 35 or 40 people in our first school. And we had several sessions of school. And God just blew up and imparted things, and people laid out all over the floor, and supernatural happenings and signs and wonders and all sorts of stuff happening in the school. We went to another church, and they were letting us use their church on a Saturday night. And now we're growing and getting bigger, and moved to another church. Same scenario, Saturday night, getting bigger. God's moving, powerful worship, and then this season shifts again. We're there 7 years total. Season shifts again. And, and I'm not filling in all the blanks with a lot of this struggle. But I need to take a moment and highlight that there was struggle, and there was hurt and heartache, and stuff happens, right? And you press and you carry on. And we did, and we moved, we finally did get our own place, but it was a small little place. And we were very, very prayer focused and assignment focused. And it was amazing. And the people there, incredible, friends to this day, right? And so time goes by there in Detroit. And then it was time for us to move on. And by the way, we never started a church, and we aren't to this day with the idea that it's supposed to be permanent, that we're building this church and that's where we're going to live and die. We're very apostolic, very prophetic. And so it's assignment driven. We're there on assignment until the Lord says move, until the Lord says the assignment is completed. The assignment is done. For example, here in Missouri, the assignment is to prepare the way for revival. Now, does that mean we're going to be here all the way until revival breaks out? Does it mean we'll be here for 2 years, just getting things ready, training people? Does it mean we'll be here for 10 or 15 years, right in the middle of it? We don't know. Same thing in Detroit. It was very much assignment driven, and it came time when the assignment was done, moved to Branson. Well, in Branson, we needed some time. And we needed some time to detox, to breathe, to see what the Lord would have for us. And again, more learning, more refining, more brokenness, more humbling, more tears, more strengthening our marriage, strengthening family, strengthening, growing as individuals. So all of that was going on here in Branson, and we started a business, started escape rooms called Escape Code. First escape rooms in Branson. It was a God thing. It was dramatic and incredible. And God to this day is blessing our family through that business, and we're having the time of our lives with that. But all throughout, the ministry thing never left me. Amy was even more excited to take a break than I was. There's just something in a person, like me. I'm a little strange, I guess, like a lot of people in ministry are. And I just knew there was some burnings within that needed to be dealt with. And but we weren't going to do anything until Amy felt the release also. That was very important. So Amy goes, years go by, and Amy ends up going to a conference with some of her gals to Dallas. Emma Stark was there. Cindy Jacobs was there. Emma Stark just ripped a prophetic message publicly to everybody, and it just was like a sword, just sliced right through Amy. And it was a word of urgency, basically saying, respond now or it's too late. Do what you know God's called you to do now, or it's too late. And then Amy was called up on the platform, and Cindy Jacobs prophesied personally to Amy. It was incredible, and basically prophesied the launching of our next church, our third church. Amy comes back, lets me know what happens. I pass out. I'm like, I'm like about fall over. I'm like, what? Really? And she's like, yep, it's time. And so we, again, did it the same way we've always done it. Loads of prayer, rented a clubhouse at a country club, and started getting the word out and having meetings. And from there, we were there several months. Then we leased our own property, which we have now, right in the north side of Branson. It's prime position. We love being there. But, it's a small property. We intentionally got a small one. We're not looking to grow. I'm done. I'm done with all the church growth stuff. I never really have been that much into it, but definitely not into it now. It's not about that. It's not about, I tell the people, I'm like, if we, we're running 40, 50, 60, whatever the number is on a particular week. Okay, great. If we stay at that, that's fine. It's not about the number for me at all. I just need the people in position that are going to get the job done. I need the apostles, the prophets, intercessors. I need these people that are going to pray and contend and prayer walk. I need those who are going to equip and train. That's what we're looking for. And so we're right in the middle of our season here at Revival X. I'm going to be there tonight preaching, and I think it's going to be a good night. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about what God's doing. Just dramatic happenings and miracles and signs and wonders are happening here too, just like they always do. We're expecting more. Spirit of the Lord is moving. We're continuing to learn, continuing to grow. And that's been our church planting journey. That's where we are. That's how we've done it. There's so much more. I mean, hours and hours and hours worth of more material that I could share with you. It's very difficult. If you're going to plant a church, you better know that God has called you to do it. It blows my mind that people plant a church without a vision. It happens all the time. They're like, well, I'm called to be a pastor, so I'll go start a church. And they don't have a vision. They don't have direction. God hasn't done anything. God hasn't spoken anything. They don't have clarity. They don't have specifics. They don't have strategy. None of that's going on. And it's a mistake. You better have vision. You better understand what God's calling you to do. You better have that tremble in your spirit. You better know that you're going to endure things. The church world is filled with stuff that I didn't talk about, but difficult stuff. We're all people. We all have to interact together. Can there be betrayal? Sure. Can there be hurt feelings? Yeah. Can there be miscommunication? Yeah. Can there be differing visions? Sure. Can there be differing theologies? Yes. It cracks me up. Our first church plant, people showed up, wanted to be on the leadership team. They were good, solid folks, but they demanded that we change from being Arminian to Calvinists. And I'm thinking that's so strange that someone would ever expect that. But you'll get that stuff. Had someone else show up, or he'd been there for a while, and he came up one day, and he gave me a whole manuscript of a book all about why the apostolic is dead and gone. And he said, I just want to let you read this. And I just looked at him and smiled. I said, thanks. I may or may not read it. But you just got to know that I'm going to continue teaching on the apostolic and flowing in it. And just it's who we are. I just want you to know that. I don't want you to think that we're just shifting, because we had a chat. And, so stuff like that happens all the time. And people want to, they have their own agendas sometimes, and other people that are just really, really awesome, and they're just immature and they don't know how to respond to situations, or their emotions get the best of them, or, when you want to blaze ahead and people are a little slow in blazing themselves. And, or sometimes you need to slow down yourself and you don't want to, or God needs to teach you another lesson, or there's, man, we could keep going on and on and on. And so if you're going to plant a church, you just better know that God has called you to do that. It is quite the journey. So there it is. And this is an example of some of the things we'll talk about on this podcast. And I want to encourage you to subscribe, revivalx.tv/podcast. That will give the option to use any of your apps, iTunes or Spotify or whatever. And so thanks for connecting. I'd love to hear from you. Go to revivalx.tv/contact. If you ever want to reach out, you can also join the Revival X Telegram group. Just go to revivalx.tv. All that information is there. And I love interacting with people, love conversations, love hearing your story, and certainly get in touch. If you're in the Branson, Missouri area, by all means, come on out on a Tuesday night to Revival X, and God is moving, and we're very strategic, very focused, and we're excited about what's coming next. All right, that is it, everybody. I pray God blesses you like crazy. Let the wildfire of the Holy Spirit consume you in the name of Jesus. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to Revival X with John Burton. You can access media, read articles, and partner with the ministry at revivalx.tv. And share this podcast with those who are hungry for revival, reformation, and revolution.